Welcome to another edition of Disability and You. I'm Ganesh Singh. On this edition, I'll be focusing on housing and persons living with disabilities. The Government of Guyana, through the Ministry of Housing and the Central Housing and Planning Authority, would have been making significant strides in ensuring that all Guyanese can access reasonable accommodation. Access to reasonable accommodation is important for all citizens, but more so persons living with disabilities. Today, on this program, I will be joined by three persons living with disabilities who were beneficiaries of the Government of Guyana program or initiative to ensure that all Guyanese can have their own home. With me is Asif Khan, Odessa Blair, and Hazel Sears. They all received their allocations at the recent International Building Expo that was held at the National Stadium. I'll now get from them their thoughts on this significant achievement and also what can be done to ensure that all persons with disabilities, even those who do not want to have their own houses, but they want to live independently, what can be done. So Asif, Odessa, Hazel, thank you very much for joining me.
Welcome.
Yes, Ganesh, thanks for having us.
All right, first of all, let's start with Asif. What was the feeling like when you received that allocation letter and you know that I am now the owner of a plot of land? What was that feeling as a young person with a disability?
That's correct, Ganesh. So I like the fact that you emphasize the word young because being a young PWD, for me, it was a very humbling feeling. I was very humbled by it, especially knowing that it is a significant achievement, not just for in the sense of any other person, but the sense that knowing the fact that you have a disability and the fact that I was able to add another accomplishment in the sense of my own land. So it was a very humbling feeling for me, and again, it shows the inclusivity for the government, not only for PWDs, but the emphasis also on young people, because I know that there are quite a few young persons generally who would have benefited from such initiative that was held at the Building Expo. So I was very humbled and at the same time elated by such.
Mm-hmm. Ms. Hazel, what was your reaction and the feeling at that time when you learned that you will receive an allocation, and when you actually got that letter, what was your reaction and the feelings?
My reaction as a person living with a disability, it was a good move. To be honest, I don't know, but I wasn't overjoyed because for me, I think as a Guyanese, I am entitled for a land.
Mm-hmm.
The problem here is that if the government giving us the land is one thing, but if the government can build houses for people with disability, that would be a good thing also, because having the land is one thing. Yes, we like to be independent, we like to know that we can acquire a land, but not everybody who living with a disability can be in a position to build a house.
So basically you're talking about those that are unemployed and would like to build.
Yes, who would like to have a land but don't have the finances to build the houses. Yeah. So it's a good initiative, but we got to.
Well, it's a start.
We got to look out for people like those.
Yeah, it's a start because in the past, through the core homes, quite a few persons with disabilities would have benefited, and they were able to get homes at a very, very small fraction of the cost.
Yeah, but years ago they used to build, or like housing schemes,
Uh-huh.
and then you pay a certain amount of money every month on the house. If those programs can come back, that will help a lot of Guyanese people to own a home.
I guess it's similar with what is being done with the turnkey homes, where it's being built for you. There's an arrangement with the bank and you pay. So it's the same thing like if you're paying the government, but instead you're paying the bank. Odessa, what was your thoughts? And how did you feel or you felt at that time when you were given your allocation?
Well, for me, I was a bit overwhelmed when I was given the letter and so forth. And I am quite happy to know that persons with disabilities are given the opportunity to acquire their own homes, because I know of persons who are very old and going to their grave and haven't still paying rent and so forth. So I think it was a good initiative, and I was quite happy that, at least the journey began with the first step. After acquiring the land, then every other thing may be able to fall into place step by step.
And how long you had your application in the system at the ministry?
My application was there since 2019.
So it's not that long.
No.
What about you, Hazel?
Same thing,
2019.
2019.
And yours, Asif?
Yeah, just around the same period, 2019. Yeah, just around that.
So it's basically, it shows that some priority is being given to persons with disabilities in allocations.
Yes.
Definitely.
Because, persons out there, some would have had the applications for 10, 15 years, even more.
Decades.
Yeah, because I remember when I told someone that I was going to Providence, and they asked how long I applied, and I did, they said, well, just imagine, and they applied 20 years ago, and until now they received no call.
And that is, the honorable ministers of housing, Colin Crowell and Susan Rodriguez, more so Susan Rodriguez, would have made a commitment to the disability community through the Guyana Council of Organizations for Persons with Disabilities to ensure that applications of persons with disabilities are treated with some level of priority. And we have seen this recently, and we've seen it last year, but more so recently when you had quite a number of persons with disabilities that received their allocations at the International Building Expo. As if Hazel would have spoke about having certain initiatives in place to help with the construction. What are your thoughts on that? And do you have any other idea to put forward?
Yes, I think generally I must start by saying again that I think we are at a good place in the sense that we have a start, in the sense that persons are being allocated, be it house lot, or for those who may be able to afford the turnkeys. I think, however, though, it might have to be some level of a more strategic and comprehensive plan where some level of a special program is being able to design or set up to further help PWD. So, for example, something that would just come to mind in terms of an idea, probably a subsidized system in which persons who are unemployed or can't afford to pay for the entire, let's say it's a turnkey, there could be some level of subsidization. Obviously, you can't expect the government to fully cover the cost, but some level of subsidization, I think that would be a good
So a subsidy given to those that are unemployed.
Yes, that's correct. I know, the housing need in the disability community is a big cry. Everyone I communicate with, they have issues when it comes to housing and accommodation. So, I know it's a big issue, And
It is definitely a big issue because there are a lot of persons with disabilities who are forced to stay in toxic environments
That's correct.
with people that really don't want them to be there, but their choices are non-existent.
Limited, yeah.
So they have to tolerate the atmosphere and stay with their current, they stay in their current place of abode. Odessa, what are your thoughts with what Hazel and Asif would have highlighted? The need for a subsidy for persons who are unemployed, persons with disabilities, that is, who are unemployed and can't afford to access a loan, probably because of income status, probably of age, different reasons. What are your thoughts on that with what they said?
Well, I totally agree with both of them, and that's because persons, PWDs, aren't as happy as they should. I mean, sometimes they go out there and wear a smile, and that's from a counselor's perspective. But generally, the environment in which they live, not all, but majority, at least 95%, are living in toxic environment. And so I think if some sort of subsidization should be given, I mean, it would help a great lot for persons living with disabilities.
Those that are unemployed, because
Right.
yeah, because there are people with disabilities who are employed like every other Guyanese,
Yeah.
and will benefit from the different initiatives like assistance with your foundation, if it's 6 million or below. If it's 6 million above, you get certain building materials and so forth. All will benefit from that, including people with disabilities. But the ones that are unemployed, subsidies should be given.
Yeah.
What about those persons with disabilities? And it is another major issue that is plaguing the disability community, and that is access to alternative housing for those people with disabilities who do not want to own their own house for whatever reason, or because they can't really manage to take care of a house, or their disability might be one of such that they can't live independently. What about alternative housing for those individuals? What is your take on that? Probably we can start with Asif, then Hazel, and Odessa. Starting with you, Asif.
Yeah, I think it would be a good way because, like Miss Hazel would have mentioned, I mean, getting the land is one thing, and construction is another thing. When we look at what goes on in terms of the average citizen, it takes them years to actually construct a home. And I was thinking about for those PWDs, even who were allocated, how long it will actually take them to actually complete a house. But coming to the question of alternative housing, definitely, it might be, again, it will require some level of collaboration because I'm sure the Ministry of Human Service, they will have some mandate also. So perhaps I'm thinking there could be collaboration between the Ministry of Housing and Human Service in which some system is being constructed. I know now the recent act would have they would have passed some recent housing amendments, and perhaps there could be some level of construction in terms of a building or something which will house specific departments or apartments or whatever it is that will be able to cater to persons, and either again at a small fee or perhaps completely free. That's just a random idea.
Yeah, because
came up.
it is. You hear stories regularly of people that are below the age of a senior citizen, so they're ineligible to reside in any one of the elderly homes, including the Palms Geriatric Home, or they're above 18, so they're no longer a ward or of anyone, or their parents are not obligated to provide housing. So they're left in a bind within 18 to about 60 if they're unemployed and their sources of income are limited. There are many, many persons with disabilities that are in that situation. So what are your thoughts, Hazel, on this alternative housing?
I want to agree with what Asif said, but we gotta always remember not every disabled person is employed, and not every disabled person is gonna qualify for a house lot. And as he rightly said, that, the government with the Ministry of Social Protection will have to come up with some kind of some kind of a idea so they can build these homes to house persons who living with disability. Not only the Palms institution, but if they can build like hostel, to house these people, because a lot of people living with the disabled who are disabled, not only blind, but they're living on the streets. And they need a place. And I wish if the government can look into that and do something for those people.
Excellent. Odessa?
Yeah. My take on that is that the same way we have the Amerindian hostel is just a suggestion. If a structure can be placed for persons for PWDs who have no relatives, or, as you said, between the ages of 18 and 60, who have nobody to take care of them, to stay there and just, try to make themselves comfortable, and even they can be placed in institutions whereby they can study, in positions where they can study and get themselves out, because being on the streets is not easy. There's no hope, because you just eating out of bins and all these things, and you have nobody to care for you. And I believe if they're placed in a station building, from there some sort of progress can be made.
I agree, because it happens in other countries where you have subsidized housing, whether it's apartments, shared accommodation, whatever it is. You want to move away from institutionalization, where you just build a big, huge building and it's like an institution. But, small apartments in a complex where these persons can pay a small fee, if any at all, and they're given certain kinds of support. Especially those who do not want or are unable to own their own homes. Because some persons with disabilities, as you guys would have highlighted, want to be independent, want their own home, they want to live like everyone else. But there are others that might not want to live like that, or they can't, for a number of factors, including the severity or the degree of their disability. So yes, that's a good initiative. We have the Cheshire Home, but that is more for persons with severe forms of developmental disabilities, and their spaces are limited. They have semi-independent accommodation there, but it's only for a few persons. So we need a lot more facilities of a similar nature that includes the semi-independent living quarters. I know the Human Services Ministry would have, excuse me, would have been working on such a facility, but of recent I've not heard much on the progress. And that facility is somewhere in Mahaica. The minister would have mentioned this in the past. Asif, what are your final thoughts on this, housing and accommodation for people with disabilities? We've come a far way. We are making progress. And what do you have to say to other persons with disabilities out there who the relatives might be telling them, no, you don't need to apply for a land. You don't need to move out, or why do you need to move out, and things like that. What do you have to say to those individuals?
I want to first say that indeed we have come a far way in terms of the housing system for PWDs, and I want to continue to acknowledge the efforts of the ministers, especially Minister Rodriguez, under the leadership of His Excellency. It shows again that we have commitment from our ministers, and while there may be slow progress, at the same time we're getting progress.
It's progress nevertheless.
Definitely.
But of recent, it's been a lot faster.
Indeed, and not only with housing, but we're seeing the other progress in terms of the other sectors. But sticking to housing and answering your question, I would say to the other PWDs who are potential applicants or who are hoping to be allocated soon, first of all, for those who haven't applied as yet, if you're a PWD, apply. As a citizen, it is your inherent right to, you know, part of your country. It is that duty of you. So that's the first thing you should bear in mind. You have a right, and therefore you should apply for a plot of land.
Yeah, definitely. As a
Fill that
citizen,
application, get it, seek whatever assistance. Self-sufficiency is the best way, and being able to own your own home, it doesn't matter how long it takes. That is, a significant achievement. For those who would have been allocated, I mean, yes, it's probably going to take time, but have the patience, pursue, getting your home up and running, and continue remaining positive. That's what I will say in general.
Excellent. Hazel, what do you have to say to those persons that would have never applied and they might not even be thinking of applying because of people telling them, yeah, you don't need to move out, or what you would do with a piece of land, you already have a disability, and so forth. What do you have to say to those persons?
I would tell them think positive. Once you, as a Guyanese, it's your democratic right to own a piece of land. So don't matter what negative vibes people might put forward to you, the owner is on you to decide what you want in life. If you want a piece of land, you're living at your mother or your father or at a friend or even an institution, and you tell yourself that, listen, I had enough of that, I would like to acquire my land, by right, go fill up your application and carry it in, and just have some patience and wait, and until you get called, get your money in order, and you pay for your land, and that land become yours.
Yeah, start saving.
Yes.
Definitely. You should start saving. It doesn't matter how small is your income.
Yes.
We must learn to budget, and we must learn to be very strategic in how we spend whatever little resources we have. But that's what message you have for persons with disabilities out there that are not thinking of going in the direction of owning their own home or applying for a plot of land for various reasons. What do you have to say to those persons?
Well, for me, I'm a typical example of persons saying to me that, you have a disability, stay right here, don't go any place. But my advice to the general public is persons living with disabilities, do not fall for that bait. It's a setup. You need to get up and ready, as my colleague rightfully said, start putting aside your money, apply, make your application, and then start saving. Everything is going to fall into place after that, so that you can live a meaningfully and independent life if you want to be happy in the future.
You made an excellent point that, don't fall for the bait, right? I want to thank you very much, Asif, Hazel, and Odessa, for sharing with the public your thoughts on housing for persons with disabilities and more so receiving allocations recently. Once again, I want to congratulate all of you. It's an achievement, as much as persons might not think that it's anything significant. But at the end of the day, you're now the owner of a plot of land, which, in my view, is transformative, because that can transform your life from being considered an unwanted guest in some people's home to being, a proud owner and having your own place. Also, it provides you with an opportunity for economic empowerment. And I say this because when you go and reside on that plot of land, you can have a little shade house. You can grow a few vegetables or crops, fruit trees that can provide for you, but also you can sell the surplus to generate income. And one of the things that people must understand is that from the time you allocated a plot of land, you might pay a minimal cost in comparison to market value. But once that is in your name and you have that agreement to sales, the value of that plot of land, it most times quadruple or even more, depends on the location. That is access to equity. You can use that to get a mortgage to construct your home. You can use that to get a loan, whether it's to start a business or whatever else. But it's access to equity, and you have assets value that values something that you never had before. That is how we should view a plot of land. And again, I must commend the ministers of housing for the efforts made to ensure that persons with disabilities are included, more so the Honorable Susan Rodriguez, for establishing and maintaining that partnership with the Guyana Council of Organization for Persons with Disabilities to ensure that people with disabilities are given some level of priority in accessing their house lots. It is now time for me to wrap up the program. I want to thank my guests very much, and I just wish you goodbye. Stay safe.
Right.